everybody. What's up? I'm Andrew.
And I'm Ari.
And we are going to be working today to create a typographic lookbook in InDesign and Photoshop and Illustrator and Firefly. Everything will be all over the place. Ari, tell us a little bit about you before we hop in.
Yes. Hi, I'm Ariadne Remoundakis. I am usually on the Adobe Fonts show on the live streams, but here I am with Andrew today, and I'm the library manager for Adobe Fonts, which means that I work with all of our Foundry partners that bring fonts to you, to use in your Creative Cloud.
Yes, so let's hop onto my screen real quick, and I'm just going to show you a little preview of what we are doing today. So we are going to be using the power of Generative Fill in Adobe Photoshop Beta with the power of Adobe Fonts together to just like make weird stuff. The goal today,
such a good combo.
Make it weird. So what I can do, and this is a workflow I've been playing around with, is I will use a font from Adobe Fonts, right? This is by Fort Foundry. It is Abolition. And what I'll do with my type is I'll come over here and make a selection of this type, right? So I'm holding Command, and we'll select all this type, and then I can use the contextual toolbar. We can expand, and I'll expand it by like 20 pixels. And now I have this like extra version of the font, like an extra bold outlined version of it. And now I can come to a full blank white layer, and I'm going to type on Generative Fill. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in like concrete, texture, rough, and rugged. And because I have a selection that is the size of that type, it's going to fill in this blank white space with this crazy texture.
That's going to be really cool.
It's going to be weird, yes. And so then we're going to use that.
Ooh.
So, right? Really cool. And so I don't want this to be like, it's done, because it could get so much better. Basically what we're going to do is we're now going to use this texture to apply it to the type below. So what I like to do is I'll come into channels, and I'll grab this RGB channel by just making a selection right there. It's going to grab everything that isn't white. I can turn off my texture, come back to my type layer, and check this out. When I mask it, boop. Now I've got a really cool, like crunchy texture type in there using that Generative Fill texture.
That's so awesome and quick.
Right? It's so quick and easy.
And then you add a little extra outline just so that any effect is going all the way to the edge.
Just to make sure that I'm going out to the edge, and if there is anything that I need to move around here with the type, then I can change it. And I think that if I wanted to, this is gonna look weird. If I change this to hype, it will look super weird, but you see that that texture is staying on top so that anything we type, it's just masking it in. Mm-hmm. Type. All right, cool. So let's hop over to your screen because I want to talk about Adobe Fonts real quick, just in general.
Yes.
I wanted to give you a little preview of what we're doing.
I just happen to have Adobe Fonts open.
That's so weird.
Because I'm always just staring at the Adobe Fonts website.
There's a lot on there. So tell us a little bit about Adobe Fonts. We're going to be using a lot today, but I want to give everyone at home kind of a taster of what they can find.
Yes, so this is the home page. Find the perfect font for your next project. So if you didn't know already, Adobe Fonts is a collection of 25,000 fonts that are included in your Creative Cloud subscription. We also have a library of about 2,000 fonts that are free. So if you just have an Adobe account and you log in, you can have access to those 2,000 fonts. And if you want to drill down and find something that's right for you, there's a lot of ways to filter down. We have tags. We have different font formats. For example, variable fonts were recently introduced.
Yes.
And we have GIFs to show you the possibilities, like what these fonts can do. It's one font that has a lot of different weights, widths, styles included in it, and I encourage you to go in and check some of these out. Our Foundry partners that design these fonts and bring them to us have done a great job creating graphics to showcase what they can do. So I love looking at those. And then just in general, besides those tags, we have classifications, we have filtering. Like if you want a large family, you can filter and say, I want something that has at least 20 fonts in the family, so I can have a large range of fonts I can use and use it for a big project. We have that answer for you. You can use a slider. So definitely go in and narrow down and look for things you like. And you can also go to recommendations, which is just a page that if it ever loads, yes, will show you some recommendations based on what you've used before, if you've gone for you, or just generally you can go through and look like, oh, there's abolition. You can look at just suggestions of font pairings, font packs to get you started.
Sweet. What I love is this also exists, like the filters and whatnot in program, which is so helpful to be able to like go to fonts.adobe.com, search there, get an idea, and then if you're in your workflow, you don't really have to go back and forth. You can also search right there. All right, nice to see you. Hello, Barbara. Nice to see you in chat. If you are watching, let us know where you're watching from.
Yes.
Where are you from? Where do you usually watch from?
I usually watch from my home in the Bay Area. I used to live in San Francisco, but I moved to the East Bay.
East Bay.
Yes, so now I live in the East Bay and watch and stream from my home there. And I'm in the studio today. It's my second time this year, but before that I hadn't come back since 2019, so it's cool to be in person.
We're here, we did it.
Yeah, and we streamed together probably like 4
or 5 years ago. It was one of my first streams. It was.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hop back over. I'm going to give everybody a little look at what we're going to be creating today. So we are going to be doing a type lookbook for our friends at Fort Foundry. I love their fonts. I love the work that he does. So we are going to be doing this over in InDesign. I have a document kind of laid out. Right now it's 5 pages. I doubt that we're going to have time to do 5 full pages. I'm ambitious, okay?
You can do generative fill and fill pages.
Go, pages.
Just like, just tell it. We need to finish our live stream.
Yeah, so we'll be going back and forth. We'll be using Illustrator, we'll be using InDesign, we'll be using Firefly, and we'll be using Generative Fill over in Photoshop. And mostly, we're looking to get weird today. We're doing textures, we're doing effects. We're kind of doing a version of this type specimen book that is never one that would go out. We're trying to make it look as weird and wonky as possible because I love destroying fonts. I'm so sorry to our friends at Fort, but I love texturing and destroying fonts to do some abstract work.
And if you want to play along, you can go to Adobe Fonts, go to our website and look for Fort Foundry. Here's their Foundry page, and you can activate any of, it looks like Andrew's been activating all of their fonts.
All of them, yes. And
so you can follow along.
Yes, know how, when you see this, look at how good this design is. Just appreciate how well these fonts are being used, because we will not be using them like this today. Which is, again, the joy of Adobe Fonts. There's no wrong answers, just ones that work and ones that don't. So let's hop in here, and I'm going to do the cover. So I'm working in 11 by 5.5, just because I think it's interesting. And what I'm gonna do is, I want this to be like it's kind of painted on like brick, or it's been like scratched through. And so I have a normal process with this. I'll go out, take a picture of like carpet or like a wall, and then I'll bring it in, I'll crush it down. We don't really need to do that. We can use the power of Adobe Generative Fill here in the Photoshop beta. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to create a really weird selection here. Oh, and I don't want this to be feathered at all.
We have a lot of people joining. We have Heinz from Cologne. We have Heinrich from Germany. Barbara from Nashville, I believe. We have Mamoon here. Let us know where you're from and say hi. And let us know if you've tried Generative Fill in Photoshop.
All right, so I'm gonna make a selection on a white layer over the entirety of my text. And what this is gonna do is when Generative Fill kind of fills, it doesn't do opaque, right? It doesn't do anything clear, it always fills. And so doing it on white is just going to generate the image that I can use a little easier to extract the channels. So I'm typing in rough concrete texture cracked right here, and we are going to generate this. It's doing it on white right now. And so once this generates, I can use this as something called a displacement map. And a displacement map is basically giving information for pixels to move certain ways. So when we do that to type, it's going to really mess it up. Okay, this looks pretty good. So we are going to use an adjustment layer here, and I'm just going to use a gradient map. This is going to allow me to kind of control the tones a little bit better.
Oh, that's
cool. All right, cool. So we have a nice little texture here. This is looking good. And there are 3 steps we need to do. Step number 1, we need to save this. So I'm going to save this and just call it displace. Displace. There we go. So we're going to save that. Great. And then I can actually turn these generative layers and the white layer off. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to take this type right here. And we are going to go up to filter. We are going to go to distort and then displace. And watch what happens. So I'm going to convert to a smart object because we need that. I'm going to leave these settings here. You can play around with these settings. It really will just give you crazier results if you increase them. So I'll hit OK, and then I'll choose that file that I just made, right, which is that texture that we use Generative Fill for. I'm going to hit Open and watch what happens. Yeah.
Oh.
Right? And so you can see, just so you can understand what's happening here, see some of these cracks. Actually, here, let me do this. I'll group these, and then I'll take this down to like 50%. So you can see that the type is actually moving around some of these cracks, right? It's pulling up. It's technically pulling up 10 pixels and right 10 pixels, which are those settings that we used.
Okay.
And so anything that is dark gets moved, and everything that is light stays still. So it's a really, really great and easy way to create some super cool textures.
Yeah, I had no idea that's where this was going.
That's where this.
Really
Oh
cool.
yeah, we're doing Generative Fill, AI plus type. And again, this is something that I could have done in my normal workflow that would have taken me probably 10 minutes, and it took me like maybe 3 right there. So Generative Fill is a really good way to speed up your process and to help out with things that you do every day.
Yeah.
Oh, caught slacking, sorry. My phone vibrated. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I am going to add on some more effects here, and we're going to kind of add this into our InDesign, but I'm just gonna do it in layers, and that way we can build as we go. Chat, if you have suggestions, let me know.
Yeah, what kind of textures or effects do you want to see?
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this as a PNG, and I'm just gonna name this 1. This is gonna be the most chaotic saving. Each one of these is just gonna be a new number. And now I can come into InDesign, and the reason I'm saving it just as the number 1 is if I wanna change it, I can actually just replace that file, and it will update automatically in InDesign, which is really nice. So I'm dragging out a box. I'm gonna hit Control or Command D, and that is going to be place. Then I have 1 right here, and boom, it has placed my type on that cover. So I think that we need some more something on this cover. Maybe some color or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe we put a bunch.
What if the whatever texture you had before is like behind it, but
Yes.
less opaque? Something
Yes.
behind in the background.
And I wonder if like we throw a bunch of like letters from their fonts like onto the background, so it creates this kind of like mosaic, and then we
Yeah.
put some texture on that. All right, so now we're coming to Illustrator. I think that there are different programs that work for different ways, right? So as I work with type, I know that I'm going to be using a bunch of fonts here. It's much easier for me to do that in Illustrator and just kind of kick out random letters. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type random letters here, and then we're going to blow this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up all of those Fort Foundry fonts that I liked here. So we've got Industry, Pentz, and Rift. I'm just going to use those 3 for now.
We had a couple suggestions: stained glass and reptile scales.
Ooh, reptile scales is going to be a really cool texture.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to do Industry, and then we'll do some of Rift. I love that I can't remember.
It's hard to remember these names.
It really is. All right, so we got Rift. Let's get one that's a little more wonky. Let's do Colt, and then maybe Cinder. Let's do some of these in Colt, and then some of these
Whoa.
in Cinder. Cool. All right, so I wanted to do a bunch of fonts, so I just threw them all in there, and then went around. I'm going to ungroup them. And now I can literally just, actually, I got excited, sorry, because I forgot this is a thing, and now I can use this as a thing. We don't have to outline them because I can come over here and I can click on Show Options, and then we can use the Touch Type tool. Where are you, Touch Type tool?
Usually I have to find it under like the 3 dots and then under Isn't it one of these?
Where are you?
I think it's the last
It's this one.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, hold on. Let me grab it under the type tool. There we go. Touch type tool. So we don't have to outline our text anymore. We can use the touch type tool. And I am just going to kind of weirdly slam these all over the board. And again, usually this is not something you can do. It's really, really difficult to move text around, especially with this obtuse weirdness that we're doing right now. But using the touch type tool, you can do it very quickly and very easily.
And then you can change, if you wanted it to actually spell out a word, you could then type out the word and you wouldn't have to have outlines that you then have to delete and create something new.
Yes.
Ron asked, Wade has an answer for Ron. Yeah, so he asked if we can save something like this as a font and then continue typing in it, but we're just applying effects onto the font. So we're not creating a new font that you can then type in new characters. So that's where you wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I'll show you a workflow that if you want to kind of have a way to type different characters and keep the texture, you can actually layer the textures on top and have it so that anything you type in there will apply that texture. And I think that is kind of what you're talking about, so that you don't have to create a new font. There's not a reason for that. You can actually just keep the texture on there. All right, so I'm throwing these around. I am going to make these a little bit lighter, and we are going to, again, we're going to texture these. You know we got to make it happen. Trying to keep a little bit.
There should be a button where you can just like randomize.
Just like scramble.
Yeah. The B looks kind of stretched.
I could figure that out.
Did it get?
I think the B did get stretched. Okay,
there you go.
There we go. We fixed it by stretching it more. All right, so we have our type here. And again, I just did it in Illustrator because it's easier to lay out for me. So I'm going to copy this and bring it over into Photoshop. I'm just going to hide this layer and we're going to paste it in. Let's do it for Smart Object. That's probably going to last for like 3 seconds. But we have it in here. Oh, my PC hands hotkeys. There we go.
You got a case of the PC hands.
Yes, I do. So we're going to blow this up, do some weird stuff to it. I think that looks good. And so someone was asking, how do you make it right so that you can keep your texture and type other stuff in there? So here's what we would do is I would create a texture. So I'm going to, again, use my trick of do just a new layer and fill that with white. And then we'll grab the whole artboard here. I actually don't know if this is going to work. And we're going to type in, maybe we want scratched metal. So scratched metal texture.
That's why it's live, because you don't know for sure if it's going to work.
Yes, and that's the fun with Generative Fill and all of the like Firefly stuff that we're doing is we don't know what it's going to be. And so as much, I've done so many demos and so much stuff showing you all workflows, but we don't know what it's going to be. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me see if there's another.
Ooh, I like the second one.
I like the contrast of this.
Yeah.
So again, Generative Fill is a really great way to speed up your process. My process, I always crush this down to black and white. And so I usually come here and then I'm going to go to levels. And then I'm going to crush these levels. So these are the darks. That's going to get really dark. And the lights are going to get super hot. All right, that looks pretty good. So from here, what I always do is I'm going to go to Channels, and then I'm going to select right here. I'm going to hold Command, and that will select, again, all of that black and white area for me. So now, I'm actually going to make a group so you guys can see. I am going to mask out using that texture, right? So now we have that texture on here, and the texture is actually on the group. So if I move this layer around, it is going to keep that texture. So see how the texture stays? And so the same thing goes that if you were typing something, anything that I type in here is going to have that texture applied to it. So really easy way to get a texture in there and then just keep using it. So I like this. I probably want to make it a little bit lighter just so we can have some separation. Or maybe we make it a color? Let's make it a color. Why not?
You're so black and white today.
I know. I love
He's
working
wearing
with black
all
and
black, so what color would you use? Gray?
I would. I'm gonna throw a blue on it just to add some spice. We'll probably do red, blue, and black will be the 3.
Okay.
So we'll do those. And we want to do some for you guys that you suggested. I think somebody said the reptile scales, so we'll try that as a texture as well. And so now I'm going to save this out as 2. And the reason I'm doing this is I might use these pieces individually later in the lookbook in different places. And so saving them out just as numbers allows me to plug them in wherever, and that's why they're all PNGs, because then I can overlap them.
Very smart.
If you design in pieces, it's usually easier because then you have more options to do things. So now I'm just going to drag out one more box, right here. And I am going to fill with number 2. I don't think that's done saving. Yeah, hold on. There we go. It's not done saving yet. All right, we have people in chat saying brushed metal texture, smooth polished. Ooh.
Oscar said that's what I tried in Web Firefly. And I guess it was a good result. What else have you done, Oscar? What were you creating?
All right, so I'm going to change my workspace real quick to just Essentials Classic because I am a classic girl. We are going to go to Effects, and I'm going to multiply this. And again, because it's a PNG, you can see that we're getting all this nice transparency. We're getting some nice overlaps and creating something really cool. All right, so let's go back into Photoshop, and let's start working on the first font. So our friends at Fort, which one of these is our favorite?
That's an impossible question.
I know. Do you have one that you think would be a good, like, kick it off?
Well, I think Pentz is really unique and cool.
Let's go there. Where are we?
It's towards the bottom, I think.
Okay.
Pentz.
Oh, there we
There
go.
we go.
Ooh. Okay, cool. So what's cool as well, using textures and using Generative Fill for textures, is you can get like an emotion from the type and then match it. So this is going to be less like cracked and like, it's going to be more psychedelic.
Yes.
Right? We're going to do some like weird wonkies. And we're going to have some fun with this one. I'm excited. Okay, so Pentz is going to be the word that we use. And I'm going to put this over into Photoshop. Again, I'm just going to hide all of this. Oh, it turns it all on. Okay, I'm going to hide all of this. And then we're just going to type out the title. I'm pretty sure I spelled that wrong. Also,
you did. You were
contextual toolbar, like for type, it is an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say that this is going to go up in this corner over in InDesign. And again, another reason that I'm working on PNGs is if I need to move this around in the InDesign document, I don't have to worry about where it is. It still looks good. All right, let's toss some texture on it. We want to do psychedelics. I actually want to try the stained glass and reptile scales that someone said.
Yes, I think this is perfect for stained glass.
Yes.
I could just see this being used in a stained glass piece.
Yes, and actually, it'll probably augment it too much, but I'm going to try the Generative Fill with the type still there, and you can kind of see the difference. So if I do Generative Fill on type, usually I think that it makes it so that it's not readable, and it's actually going to change the integrity of the font, which it's not like we haven't destroyed it already with our textures. But usually I don't like the results of doing Generative Fill on type as much as I like doing Generative Fill. Oh, it literally just made stained glass. So again, the hack to get those nice textures, put a white layer on top of it. So white layer here, or we can go ahead and make the selection just the size of the type. And now we're going to use Generative Fill, and here's where I can do black and white. Actually, we don't need to do black and white because I'll mash it down anyway. We'll just do stained glass.
I'm so nervous.
I think
But
it's
in
gonna
a
be
good
great.
way.
Yeah.
Like excited.
So again, if you want more space, you can add to your selection. You can do a whole thing around the type. Here, I just want the edges of the type, so I made that selection. And cool, we've got a really cool stained glass effect there. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to duplicate this generative layer, and I'm going to go ahead and use the second option, and I'm going to use the third option. And the reason I'm doing that, this is going to be so cool. Okay, the reason that I'm doing that is this. I am going to do a purple, green, orange, psychedelic kind of vibe to this, right? And watch what happens. So with this type, it's masked into the type. We're going to go down and do a gradient map. This is going to make everything just 2 colors, kind of a duotone. So I'm going to start, and we're going to do a nice, like, green. That's probably going to be too dark. Let's go a little bit lighter here. All right. So a nice green. And again, I'm just looking at the values here. I want it to be a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to lock this down to the layer below it. So I'm holding Option here, and it will lock to the layer below it. And now I'm going to do another one that is going to be purple. You guys get where I'm going with this?
I have no idea what's happening.
Ooh, fun. We love a good mystery.
What could he be doing?
All right, so then let me drop this to white. Cool. And what I love about Generative Fill is everyone is different. And so once I turn these all on, you'll be able to see it's going to create this really cool overlap effect. And again, in my brain, this looks so cool. In application, I don't know, we haven't turned it on yet. We'll see what happens. So I'm gonna make this one white over here. All right, so now we have our 3 different versions of this, and each one has been toned to a different color. So I'm gonna go ahead and just group these, and let's see what happens. So we're gonna multiply down this orange. All right, and now we're gonna multiply down the purple. Yeah.
Oh.
So we got that really cool texture coming in here with this overlap because of Generative Fill. So Generative Fill did 3 different versions of stained glass. Then I used the gradient maps to make them one color and then multiply them down to create this really cool like tissue paper effect.
Yeah, I love it.
I love this. That's really fun. OK, so let's toss this into our InDesign document, and then we can kind of bring this through. So I'm going to go ahead and save. How are we doing, chat? This is a weird workflow. We haven't seen stuff like this before. How are we feeling? Pretty OK?
Everyone seems to like it. Renato said if you add bevel to this layer, it would be perfect.
Ooh, OK. Yes, I'm gonna do you one better. We're gonna stack some effects. So Generative Fill is gonna take a quick little time out. We're gonna let it have some moments to relax. I'm gonna drop this in here.
Oh, who said that? Oh, Tuxedo said it kind of looks like African textile. That's a good point. It looks like fabric.
I can see that.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Do this, and of course, just number 3 is gonna get thrown in there. All right, here we go, y'all. Let's get a nice and weird and wonky. Someone was saying you should put a bevel on it. Well, let me show you what's going on here. Someone's saying border inner shadow. Yeah, we're gonna do all that right now.
There's gonna be so many shadows going on.
OK, so when we look at Pentz, let's look at what they have here. They've got, it looks like maybe some band names.
Mm-hmm. Like a record label kind of thing.
Yes. So chat, I need a band name. I need a name of a band. Let me know.
Go.
Now, there's a delay, so it's kind of fun. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to stack effects. And actually, I think I have a window open that I can show you where we're going. Shh, this is where we're going. Hold on to your butts. We're going to get really crazy. So let me know what the name is, and then I'll show you how to start stacking layers and create this really cool effect. Someone's saying, I'm sad you didn't try seamless texture stained glass gothic translucent refractive. Oh my goodness.
So many words.
That's a lot. Led Zeppelin just Oh, okay. We're doing actual.
People are just saying actual.
Yes,
bands.
Magic Peaches.
Magic Peaches.
Yes,
that doesn't sound real. So that's
Magic
good.
Peaches. Yes, I run a conference in Georgia called Creative South, and we have a bunch of peach stuff that's happening. So we're gonna do Magic Peaches. I should have designated that it's an imaginary band because everyone's like, here's my favorite band.
The Beatles.
Oh, the Beatles. I have such a controversial, this is off topic. I have such a controversial opinion about the Beatles. Chat, let me know if you want to hear it. I'll let you know, like, I'm not just throw it on you. I'll let you know if you want to hear it. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start stacking some crazy effects, and yes, use the imagination station that we see here. And we're going to start out with effects kind of on a group. So we're going to put our text into a group. Boop, right there. And from here, we're going to start applying effects to the group. So this is not going to be to the text. This is going to be to the folder. So you can see here, this folder has a bunch of effects on it, not to the layer. We're going to do different stuff there. So we're going to add a bevel and emboss, and a little bit of an inner shadow. So we're going to come here, and I'm actually going to make this white so that it's easier for us to see. All right, and on the folder,
Andrew Rothman says, you shut your mouth about the Beatles.
Okay, I will not tell you then. All right, so we're going to add a bevel and emboss here. And I am changing to a glass contour. So you can already see we're getting this really cool, right? We're getting psychedelic.
Yeah.
And you can see here the highlight mode. So right now we have hard light. I probably want this to be like, I probably want it to be like a color burn or an O multiply. There we go. So let's keep that green. I think that looks good. For the shadows, we're also going to use multiply. And I'm going to do, that actually looks really cool.
It does.
Okay, we're just going to leave those colors.
Just the default thing looks amazing.
Okay, so we can also play around with where these shadows are coming from. So you can really get psychedelic and find something cool.
You said this is glass?
Yes, so this is a glass contour right here. So you can choose all these different contours. And you can actually scroll through and see what works for you. I just really like this glass contour because it feels very like chrome-like. I'm super into this. I like where the light is coming from. And I can even change the depth. So you can have like more or less of that wonkiness. And you can change the direction. You can have it go down or you can have it go up. You also can change the size. That just gives you more of the wonkiness. So that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna hit OK. And then I also am gonna add one more. I can just double click on effects right here. And we are going to go, and I am going to add a texture. And when I add a texture, it's going to, again, just do weird stuff. This is actually leaves. This is a texture of leaves. So there are some defaults in here. You can change the size and scale, and that will give us a little bit of this like hard edge right there. All right, so we have a bevel and emboss and some texture on there, okay? Is this place Photoshop? Yes. All right. So already looking pretty cool here, right? Getting that text in.
Yes.
Now, here's what we're going to do. Now we are going to apply some effects to the actual text. So this is my cheat sheet, by the way, because this is a complicated process that I know I was going to mess up. So what we're going to do now is we are going to add a blur. So I'm going to go to Filter. I'm going to go to Blur, and watch what happens here. Are you ready, Ari?
No.
So I'm going to convert to Smart Object. When I blur this, it's going to give us that really cool, weird, wonky edge. Love it. So I'm going to hit OK here. And now I'm going to go and I am going to duplicate this. So I'm going to have another version of it. And look at that.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is why we have those effects on the group, because the bevel is happening to the group.
Okay.
And so as we play around, it is beveling out the entirety of the group, right? And so because these letters get close to each other, it just assumes that they are together, and it bevels it out and gives us this really weird kind of wonky weirdness. Ooh.
Yeah, it's cool how the swirly parts interact with each other.
Yes, and what I can do is I could come in here. I believe we're just trying things. I believe I could come in here and gradient map one of these. I can. And so if I wanted to change the colors, I could come in here. Oops. And I believe that I can just shift the colors around. Let's see if this works. I'm actually not fully confident in this workflow. There we go. I'm having trouble double clicking, guys. This is a new mouse for me. Yeah, I can. So we can change over one of these colors. And let's say that we want this one to be that nice purple that we were using. Yeah, weirdness. And you can even see that's blending between those colors pretty well.
Yeah. Sin Lagos says that could be a cool animation. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This would be an awesome animation, yeah.
And actually,
or you can just sit here with your mouse and go back and forth for us, and we can watch it.
it would be really, really easy to animate this. Chat, let us know if you want to see this animated or if you want to keep going on the type book, because I could animate this very, very quickly. But what we're going to do is I'm actually going to liquify by going to Filter and Liquify. And check this out. I'm just going to kind of drag this around, get some weird wonky kind of twists. And then we're going to pull this to get some nice stretching and hit OK. And now you can see that it's changed this bottom one here. And I can actually just pull this down.
Oh.
Right? And it's going to pull kind of this really nice weirdness into where we want it to be. I'm going to put a little shadow maybe on the top one, get some difference. Let's see here. No, we're going to leave it.
What if the weird bottom one was a shadow?
Oh, yeah.
That, like, it's more readable and normal, and then the shadow of it is super distorted, and it's like the two sides.
We can totally do that.
My weird side and my...
Our gradient map, let's
Less
turn that
weird.
back on. Oh, yeah, let's do that. I'm not mad about that.
That's cool. People are saying animate, animate.
I got you. All right, chat. We are going to animate. I'm actually going to put this in here. Oh, I love how the colors are interacting. So I'm going to save this out real quick. And we're going to do save a copy. And then I'm going to go into PNG. And guess what? 4.
So predictable.
Oh, excuse me. All right, chat. You voted for it. It's animate time. So here we go. We are going to have this crazy one just move all the way across. Let's do that. Let's have it move maybe back and forth. Let's do that. Okay, so what we're going to do, here we go. We're going to go to Window. We are going to turn on our timeline right here. And then we're going to do Create Video Timeline. I'm sure that a lot of you don't know this. Yes, Photoshop does video. And I'm going to pull this up so that we can all see it. Whoop, over here. So Photoshop does do video, and it does video really well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go in, and I'm going to name this Magical Peaches. I'm going to name this Move Layer. Excuse me. Now I know what layer I have, and I just need to come into the timeline right here. And I'm going to drop down and find out where this is. So it's in group 6 right now. Oh my goodness, my hiccups. Hiccups during a live stream is the absolute worst option.
Oh no, am I going to have to scare you?
Yes. So we have our layer that is the move layer right here. And so now we can just tell Photoshop that it needs to go places. So we're going to click on Transform right here. And then we're going to move over, I don't know, somewhere down the line. Andrew, no. Pull this window. There we go. Move further down the line, and then I'm going to move it. So I'm just going to click and drag and move it over here. And you'll see that it already made that anchor point for me, or that little anchor point. Yeah, anchor point. So now, as I move this, we're going to hit play here and see what happens. You can see that it is animating to push that through, and it keeps all that animation. Now, this is all well and great, and this file is gigantic, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to ruin everything by changing the image size. This is like the most massive file right now, so we're just going to take this down to 72 so we can use it as a demo. All right, so we have our, that was too much. Off the rails.
Too small?
It was too small. All right, that's better. So now we have the two, and we can go in and we can do File, we can do Export, and I can go to Render Video. It's going to render that video very quickly for me. Here we go. Let's do, sure, Displace, Render. It is rendering out that video for me, and basically it is taking that one piece and moving it over. So, yes,
Cool.
very, very easy.
Andrew says the album name is Illegibly Wonky.
Illegibly Wonky, yes. And
by
while
the
that
Magic
exports,
Peaches.
we can go over here and put it back in here. These are very different vibes. We made some mistakes on this page.
It's all an experiment.
That's what's fun about doing stuff like this. is there's no like right or wrong. Let's put it over here. And again, what's great is it's a PNG, so I can multiply it down and get that really cool kind of look. Maybe I want this on a color background. Let's do this kind of dusty orange.
What Mac are you using? They're
That's
asking.
Great question. I don't know.
MacBook Pro.
It's a MacBook Pro. It is one of the Macs. It is Adobe Macs. Which, if you haven't registered, I think that registration opened, right?
For Adobe Macs. Wow. It's already,
I think.
is it June?
Yeah.
Is it June 1st today?
It's June 1st. Happy
Oh my
Pride, everyone!
God.
It's Pride Month!
Yay!
Gosh.
Happy Pride Month. Happy
Yes.
first of the month.
Happy everything. Okay, cool. This is on here. It doesn't look great, but whatever. Let's go ahead and... All right, we are rendered. So here is the animation that we made in Photoshop in like 5 seconds. I saved it in my downloads. Right here. There we go. Oh, it has an alpha channel even.
Ooh.
Right? So you can create some really cool animations very quickly and very easily in Photoshop. It would have been faster if we had a background. I didn't realize that we had no background. But super
really cool.
easy, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool. And again, I didn't need any special like After Effects, any craziness. It literally just wonkied that for me. And what's cool is if you watch like right here, what's gonna happen is because of that warp that I have on it, as the text moves, the warp stays. So watch the warp stay on the edge of the M right here. Okay, so it will stay straight right there and then go up and then come back down. Look at that. So it's following the warp with those letters, especially at the bottom of the A and the G. You can see that because the warp is on the text layer, as the text moves, the warp stays. Very cool.
Wow.
We're getting weird today. I know that we said that we're creating a type specimen, but I think that we're really just like on a journey together. All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and do the thing where we put the actual font on here. And what we can do is we can go to type, and then we can go to fill with placeholder text right here. And this is going to fill in that space as much as we have with placeholder text. And then we are going to type in Pentz. Boop. And there are different kinds of text boxes that you can use in InDesign. Ari, do you know what they are? How many can you name?
Whatever type and the other type.
Yes, the type, the type, and the type. So the first one that you can do.
Area type.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then
the
one
other
other.
one.
Yes. So one other. So the other one is.
The one where you expand the window, the text box, and then the actual type gets bigger.
Yes.
And the other one, you expand it and more text fills it.
Yeah. So what's interesting is in InDesign, you're actually missing one of the kinds of type. So you can go in here. This is called area type, and that means that it is just type on an area that you have dragged out.
You're drugged out? Yes, the text box, as large as you drag it out, it will be filled with text.
Yes. So the other one is shape. And shape is if you grab the type tool and you click to type inside a shape, and then you can actually type and it will flow into that shape. Let's make that not that color so you can actually see it. So now it's in that shape, right? So it will stay inside that shape. Now, there's another one in Illustrator called point type. And point type is when you just use the type tool and click, and it will start typing from that point and just go forever. So point type, area type, shape type, those are three.
Oh, I hadn't used the shape type before.
Oh, shape type is so fun.
Which I should, because
type.
I should know about that.
This, and again, we are ruining your fonts. I'm so sorry to Fort Foundry.
Maddox Schuler has designed these fonts.
I'm sorry, Maddox.
We apologize for what's been going on here.
Yes. This is serving like 90s mom made an educational computer game. realness.
But I think it's so ugly that it's cool.
Oh, that's like the vibe now. Is yes, like ugly cool.
Like if you don't actually pair those two things, if you got rid of the top Pentz and you only had the Magic Peaches.
Yes.
I think it works. It's just like weird and ugly and cool and unexpected.
I agree. All right, so let's do one more texturing technique because we've got a couple minutes left. Let's come back into here. Oh, we got a little carried away with this one.
Oscar said, Drugged Out is a great name for their album.
Yes.
The Magic Peaches.
Man, I love when we get carried away in a workflow and like chat is just going for it. And then I come back and I look at what we did and I'm like, what happened here? Like, where did we go? All right, so let's go ahead and we'll come back here. And I'm just going to make we're going to start a new one. Inches, let's do 300. Not 399. Let's do width is 11 and then 5.5. All right. So let's do one more font from Maddox. Let's see here. Let's do Shackleton.
Shackleton was at the bottom. That's why I said, because I forgot about it. I was like, I love that.
Yeah,
one.
Shackleton's good. So I'm going to just type this. Oh my goodness, the contextual toolbar just having the color.
Typing. Yes, it's good that you have a color right there.
Shackle, L-E. L-E.
It's got a C before the K.
Help me.
C-K-L.
Okay. I keep scrolling to the top to use the top bar, forgetting that I have all of my options right here.
Yeah.
All right. I love this font so much. All right, so what we're going to do with this one is we are going to manually texture. Love a good manual texture. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make a just 1080 by 1080 box. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make just a line right here. It looks good to me. And I'm going to fill that in. And guess what I'm going to do after I fill that? I am going to generative fill that.
Yay!
And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new layer. Let's not create a new layer. Let's just leave it on that layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to generative fill, and I'm going to do electrical tape. I don't think this is going to work, but let's maybe do black.
I'm hiding it.
Vinyl tape. Oh, let me move it. Sorry, chat. Here you go. Here's what I'm doing. Let's put it up here and let's
black vinyl tape.
All right, let's see what happens. So what I want here is I want to have like a little bit of shine. I want an imperfect edge, and I'm looking for something that like feels a little wobbly.
Okay.
Kind of what I'm looking for,
No
not
imperfect
quite.
edge. Oh, that one a little bit.
Okay, let's type in rough edge here. And what we're doing here is I'm making a brush. I'm making a brush to texture out the different elements here, and we'll make a couple brushes because we have about 8 minutes left, and see what happens. All right. Yes. Oh, that's exactly what I wanted. Yeah. Let's cycle. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. So this looks great, and now let's do my little hack again. Is let's come in here and let's just crush this down so I have good black and white. And I do that using my levels.
Team Western Production is asking, how do you do these texts? I think you're asking, how do you add the prompt in? So this is the Photoshop beta, which includes Generative Fill, and that's what we're using. So in the current version of Photoshop, this isn't available yet. We're in the beta.
Yes.
So you would have to get that and then try out Generative Fill, and then you can input any text prompts that you want.
And what I've done here, again, that same trick, I went to my channels, I made it black and white, I selected the channels, and then I am just going to fill. And you can see, right, that I've got this really cool on white, and I just made my selection, inverted it, and then filled it with black. And so now I can go ahead, and I'm just gonna grab this piece right here. I'm going to go to Edit, and then Define Brush Preset. So that is going to give me a tape brush. And now, check this out, I can come into my type over here. I am going to make a opacity mask. And if I zoom in here, you can see that tape brush that we just made. I can use black. It's going to give me this little cool, right, tape edge. So you can see that it's kind of like taped up on the type.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of cool. So let's do one more, and I'm going to create like a spackle brush.
A spackle brush for Shackleton.
A spackle.
Say that 3 times fast.
A spackle brush for Shackleton. A spackle shackle. All right, so let's give this the spackle shackle treatment in here.
Classic spackle shackle design.
Yes.
That's your specialty.
So let's do spackle paint, maybe dots, lights, texture? Question mark?
See what happens.
And again, I'm generating this on white. It is so helpful to generate on white and to generate on black for textures and for kind of creating a workflow. Yeah!
Very cool. All right, we have 5 minutes left.
Oh, this is going to be gorgeous.
That's kind of has a ripped effect too.
Yes. So what I'm going to do here is, again, the thing that I always do. I'm going to grab my levels. Actually, I'm going to threshold this. And I'm not. I'm going to gradient map this. So I want to make sure that I have some good like white pieces, but I also want it to be very crunched. Yeah.
Crunched.
Crunchy. Isn't crunchy a thing people say is like an insult now? Like something is crunchy?
Crunchy people are like people who make granola.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it's bad.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, again, is I'm just going to make that selection using my channels. And I'm just selecting with all that black and white on, selecting the RGB. Okay. I'm going to invert that selection and then just make a new layer and drop a black paint bucket on it.
Nice.
That's pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and grab this. And then we're going to go to Edit. Again, define brush preset. Texture looks good to me. We'll come back over here, and our good friend Shackleton is going to get some really tasty texture. Something that we can do with this brush as well. What did I lose here? There we go. So what I'm going to do with the brush as well is I can come up into my brush settings right up here, and I can change the shape dynamics, and we can just turn on an angle jitter. We're also going to turn on a little bit of a scatter.
Okay.
And then let's see here. I think that that's all that I want. Size, angle, roundness, sure. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Oh, that is a hardcore texture. So I'm going to change the flow to about 50% and see if that gives us a little more subtle. Yeah. So I can do this, and you'll see that it's going to start to pull different areas, and we'll get that overlap. And each time I click, it is rotating that brush for me.
Oh, that is cool.
And so when you change the shape dynamics right here and the angle jitter, it is going to change every single time you click. So you can create this really cool effect. And what's really helpful for that angle jitter is this. What I can do is if I want this whole thing to have a rough edge, I'm going to make this brush pretty small. So pretty small, and then I'm going to change the flow back to 100. And to get a weird kind of rough edge, I can select my type holding Command. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab right here on a mask, and I am going to add a stroke to this by stroke right here. Whew, I didn't think I knew how to do it. And we're going to make that stroke 5 pixels. So using this brush that we have, when I hit OK, in theory, it is going to give us a little bit of the rough edge. It didn't do it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, y'all. This might be something that we don't have time to solve.
We only have 2 minutes.
All right, here we go. I'll show you how to do it manually. If we were going to do this, I could grab my little brush that I have, and with those shape dynamics on, if I click on this edge and then hold Shift and drag to the bottom, every time that it's doing that, it's rotating a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is a really, really great way to set a brush that will give you a rough edge by just clicking and dragging.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? So if you want to get that rough edge, and there is a way to make it a path and then just run a stroke around the whole thing, and it will do each time. Expand selection, yes, you're actually right. That is the correct answer, but
all right.
we're out of time. All right,
we're out of time. Everyone, thank you so much for joining on this crazy journey.
What a journey we had. So we made a bunch of weird stuff. I know that the title said that we were going to make a lookbook, and we got 2 pages into it, which is great. But hopefully you learned a bunch of different ways to texture things, to make cool stuff.
And Andrew's going to stay here. So stay tuned, because the next stream is going to be Andrew and Ted Chin designing a surreal composite in Photoshop.
And if you're creating things and creating textures, tag us on Instagram, at Adobe Live on Instagram. Send us a tag and let us see what you're creating. Again, go in there, try to break stuff. Just destroy some type, get crazy, and show us what you create. Maybe animate something. I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.